Chats. If you guys are new here, my name's Nancy.
And I'm Gary.
And we have a YouTube channel called Lostgirlintomorrowland where we go on all kinds of crazy adventures.
Yeah, so make sure to head over there to subscribe if you want to hear about and see all of our amazing journeys.
And today is going to be our October Awkward Chats. So, Gary, what have you been up to?
Well, you know, the usual, getting stuff edited and stuff. I definitely have to say that I am digging that new Blink-182 single. So I'm looking forward to that album dropping later in October.
They dropped 3 singles already.
Yeah.
Are you liking all of them?
I like all of them, yeah. But that One More Time is super good. I really, really dig that One More Time. I think that's definitely a good sign and good to be back. The one thing I did notice, though, reading the copy of the album, I guess, artwork or whatever, is that this is going to be their last album.
Interesting.
Now, will they follow through with that? I don't know, but hopefully not.
I guess it's going to depend on how much money they make, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if money's a factor for them.
I think they're both, all three are rather wealthy. I don't think money's a factor, especially for the Tom guy. He keeps leaving and coming back.
Leaving and coming back. I mean, it seems like this is a thing this year. Everybody's coming back.
Hopefully. So what you been up to?
I have not been up to a whole lot. I've been up to work a lot. We've been going to South Carolina a lot of trips to Charleston, hanging out with my friend when I can, when she's also in town, because we both have the same kind of like crazy work life schedule, and just honestly trying to keep myself sane. You know? It's fall is coming up, which is holidays. The holiday season's coming up. And me and you, we're trying to figure out like what we're going to do for the holidays and how we want to plan out the rest of our year. And then our big plans for next year too, because you can't just things take planning. And while we can be a little spontaneous, sometimes we have to plan a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been up to.
So I think our first part of this podcast is going to be talking about different personalities that we've watched for a long time on YouTube and kind of how they've changed.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
So let's jump into it.
As we were saying, there's a few vloggers I think that we've watched for a number of years, even before we started our whole YouTube journey. And it's kind of interesting how things have changed, and there's obviously like new vloggers that have like come into the space too in that time frame too that we sort of watch here and there. But more specifically, I think the big ones that we watch, and I think most people know who these people are the Trackers, Adam the Woo. We watch Paging Mr. Morrow, but not as much as we used to. We watch the WGWNT news channel here and there, just to kind of stay up to date on what's happening at Disney. And then outside of that, I think those are like the core Disney vloggers that we watch. And it's just because a lot of people, like, we were watching Jackie for a while. We watched her content, super enthused, when she first kind of came out and kind of came across our radar, and she was good. I enjoyed her content in the beginning, but now not so much.
Well, I think, and I don't want to talk in specific vloggers because that really is, they come and go. They have their good vlogs occasionally, and they have a lot. What I've noticed a lot with the Disney vloggers is the simpleness of they're all doing the same thing. They're all clearly on the same media list.
Yeah.
Like they're all going to Legoland right now. It's like we're filming this the end of September. Mm-hmm. All of their vlogs are Legoland. They don't even have kids, most of them, and yet they're going to Legoland. It's like, well, it's clearly you're on the media list, right?
Yeah, and last week was Halloween Horror Nights everywhere.
Last week was Halloween Horror Nights, and then they fly out to the West Coast to do that, or D23. Yeah. So it's like, it's the same stuff over and over and over again. And it just kind of gets tiring after a while. Like, you're like, what is the point of watching 4 different vlogs on Halloween Horror Nights?
And it used to be that I feel like I used to watch them to get a different perspective, but now I feel like they're all showing the same point. So I don't even feel like I'm getting a different perspective from different vloggers. I feel like I'm getting the same PR points from all of them.
One of the things I find interesting is like you said, it's the same stuff, right? None of them like. Okay, let me restart this when I'm thinking about it. So like they used to go to the parks, right? And then they just would hang out. They would do stuff. They would go on rides. They would just have a nice day. That's non-existent on their channels anymore. It's so PR driven that it's like they have an objective. There's a new food at X restaurant. So they go to X restaurant. They have X food. You'll literally see the other vloggers in the back of each other's cameras too, because they're all there at the same time. They all go the first day. They all go immediately when it opens. They all rush home to get it edited, and then they throw it up there on the YouTube.
And then it's a fight, I feel like, even just for them, like just coming from people who do YouTube ourselves, now you're competing with each other, literally, because you're all throwing out the same keywords, you're throwing out the same SEO, and you're publishing within 24 hours of each other, and you're fighting for those views. And it's kind of like, why would you set yourself up for that? That seems a little silly.
It's not only that, they're also doing like the artificial intelligence route. So they're all just doing these simplistic things, whatever keywords are popping up in whatever system they look at for keywords, and they're pumping out that stuff. And that's all they're really doing. They're not doing anything original. They're doing exactly what they think is going to make them money, which I understand to an extent. Obviously, a lot of them are in it just for the money. They're not Disney fans. Let's be honest. If you watch Disney content, you'll notice that probably about
80%.
I was going to say 5 or 6 out of 7 would be.
It's about the same.
Would be. They're not Disney fans.
Yeah, non-Disney fans.
And you only notice it when they get really down to the details, because obviously they're polished for their thing. If they go to Tiana's kitchen, they're gonna look up Tiana facts, so they can spit them out at you when they're there.
Yeah, it's become nauseating.
But if you go down to like the specific thing that's there, like this really sort of like tiny thing, like why did the alligator or crocodile, I guess is technically what he was, get a spur in his butt? They wouldn't know because they didn't actually watch the movie. They only read the points, either from the PR team or their own research.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like originally when we started watching more YouTube in our lives, because I feel like YouTube really only became like a thing that people started watching in the last decade. I think there were people who were watching it prior to that, but it wasn't such a mass market as it's been in the last decade. And originally when I started watching these people, like you said, like they were going to the park, they were having a good time. And even if it was a PR video, they did a great job at trying to hide the fact that it was a PR video, because I think there's ways that you can...
Well, some did a great job. Some have been bad from day one. Let's be fair.
But I think originally that was kind of where I got the idea of like, you know what? I want to do this too. Like, I want to go to the parks. I want to show people like, hey, these are some tips that I have found. I want to be helpful in that regard. And surprisingly, I think the first video that I had that I did that went, that got a lot of views was doing how to get max score on Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin over in Walt Disney World. That was probably my first big video that I ever did. And I was kind of blown away by the fact, but it's true. If you try to show people like, hey, this is how you can do stuff, people will watch. But like they have gone to the other extreme of just, this is what Disney's putting out there and Disney's paying for me to go there. And again, I don't see anything wrong with Disney throwing cash at vloggers to have them cover things. I just feel like over the last year, it's become so PR polished, like you said, that it just feels like an ad the entire time, and everybody's doing the same content. Nobody just goes to the park anymore and has a fun day.
Well, even we were talking about with the WDW News Tonight. Now, we watch them fairly regularly. We don't watch all of the episodes. It's sort of like one of those things that we can put on and do other things and sort of pay attention to it. So we were talking about that, and we were talking about how Tom Course is all about, D23, it looks positive. He's all stoked for it. I don't mean to call out people by names, but I just did. I'm sorry. That he's all stoked for it and stuff. But the reality is, if they don't do well, he doesn't do well either.
True.
Because his whole channel is around Disney World, like it is. So they have to do well. Otherwise, he doesn't. I mean, even in like the blog sphere, I watch some of the more conservative vloggers, and I'm not conservative if you've ever met me, but I watched a lot of their stuff when they talk about like media and stuff, and they always hate on these like videos and movies and everything, but it's like, but they love it at the same time because it makes them money.
Yeah.
So all these really bad movies that are coming out, they love it. They love every time they sit in a theater and like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. This is going to make me cha-ching bucks.
Yeah.
It's kind of what YouTube's got to. And the same thing rolls into the Disney vlog sphere. Because, like, if you think about it, a lot of the Disney vloggers that we watched have left. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, they still cover Disney because Disney does video. Disney videos get a lot of clicks.
They do.
You can't refute that. They get a lot of watchers. A lot of people are interested in Disney. A lot of people can't afford to go to Disney, so they like to live vicariously through other people. And I get that because we did
we're
that.
very thankful for the people who subscribe to our channel that do watch our Disney content too.
100%.
Like, you know, those people are valuable in this space. So I just want to preface that.
But also, I was going to say, we are thankful for them too. When we lived in Albany, New York, and couldn't get away,
Yeah.
like watching some of them go to Disney was a
Got us through it.
fantastic escape. When we were locked down in COVID in New York and couldn't even leave our house, being able to like watch somebody else do something fun was excellent. So I
Yeah.
get that. But the problem is that they're moving away from that to just pure PR spend, PR market. It's like, who invites us, who's willing to pay for it, and that's what we'll do.
Like, I feel like when was the last time I saw kind of the core Disney vlog space just go to the park without any type of agenda in terms of like, I'm something new that Disney's putting out. Like, I would love to see them be like, I'm going to go ride my favorite rides at Disney World, or I'm going to show you guys how I like to tackle the parks, or just something along the regards of something that's not new content in the terms of Disney PR and what they're trying to push out, and just show me like what it is that you like to do. Like, just go have a fun day without any strings attached to it and see what happens. I would love to see that content again. And some of them trickle that in there here and there, but it's become harder and harder to find.
It's also become more and more obvious who's on the media list, you know, who has some contracts with people, who is being asked to be there. I love the people who do sponsored content with like Disney, and they're like, oh, Disney gave us a free day to the parks, but this isn't sponsored. Yes, it is. That's how sponsorships work.
It really is. And like, people just need to be more honest with themselves. And
Right.
I don't care that they're on Disney PR. I don't care
either.
that Disney
Yeah,
pays them.
I don't either.
Honestly, I hope one day we're there too, but I feel like there's a better way to frame it and be different, and nobody's doing that. Nobody's taking that risk. Nobody's taking that chance to try and showcase it differently.
Yeah.
And I just feel bored a lot of the time watching some of the content that's being put out there.
Well, it's kind of like, okay, so a bunch of vloggers put out a video. Let's just take Halloween Horror Nights. I know that's not Disney, but it'll work in our stays because most of our Disney vloggers went to Halloween Horror Nights, right? So we can all agree on that. So you get Halloween Horror Nights, right? It comes out, the first week it comes out, you get a block of videos, and you basically have 100 plus vloggers to pick from. Which one do you want to see go to Halloween Horror Nights? And that's your choice. And then it's like, that's it. There's nothing else beyond that. So all of these vloggers who put out the same things over and over again, it's like, okay, I've already seen Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
If you want to go there, you're going to have to show me something different about Halloween Horror Nights that I'm going to enjoy. Now, I get that you're going there to enjoy the houses. Like, that's what most people do. But if you're going there to create content, you really have to think about, like, what is it that I'm going to create here?
Yeah. And then not only that, but I feel like the other half of that coin is the fact that all they do is paint it so positively that there's no wrong.
Yes.
There's absolutely no wrong. And we've talked about this before
Yes.
on the podcast, where when you're watching somebody go to an event for the first time, whether it's a Disney event, a Universal event, or just going to the opening of some type of attraction, and it's opening attraction, and you can see that there's more than one vlogger there, and all they do is paint it perfectly, it's a lie, because it's never going to be like that in the weeks, months, years after that. They tend to put a lot of the good stuff up front for these vloggers to capture, and then as soon as like that first week, first month is over, it's gone.
So let's talk about that. This is a great example. So we go back to Halloween Horror Nights, right? All of the vloggers that we've watched so far were like, how great it is, how great these houses were. I think we watched one vlogger who said that they weren't really super big on the Stranger Things house. They thought it could have been better. That was the most critical I've heard of the entire event. Now, go and check out them news articles that are coming out this week. People can't get into any of these houses without buying the express pass. People are literally being turned away. They'll get in line to go to a house. Cast members or whatever they call them at Universal will come down and be like, nope, sorry. This is at capacity for the rest of the night. It's over. And they're like, there's only an hour into this event and they're already shooing us away. Not one vlogger said that because all of them got the express pass for free or included. And they all just went to the houses and told you how great they are. But in reality, it wasn't good. And I think the most eye-opening thing for me as a vlogger, and we had watched a ton of videos about the West Coast before we moved out here. Like I was fascinated by Disneyland. I really wanted to see the Haunted Mansion. I wanted to see Hatbox Ghost. We also wanted to check out Knott's Berry Farm and go to their chicken dinner thing. And we went. We went there. We went out to the West Coast, and Knott's Berry wasn't the highlight of our trip anyway, but we do want to go back and actually go fully explore Knott's Berry. But we went to Knott's Berry Farm. I had the chicken, and and I'm not kidding. I was going to cuss, but I'm not because we're going to be on YouTube. I'm not kidding you. I was just like, this isn't even as good as Publix chicken.
Yeah.
It's not even as good as Publix chicken.
Ranch was bottled ranch.
But if you watch vloggers, they're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever had in my life.
And here's the one thing I will say too.
And you're just like, what?
When we ate at Knott's Berry, we both looked at each other and we said Publix is better. And again, they had bottled ranch. The stuff felt very pre-made, not really home cooked.
100%, yeah.
But I do wonder, compared to some of the other places that they have on the West Coast, maybe it is the best they got. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the West Coast has great food, but great food of certain kinds. They don't have everything. They don't have good Southern cooking. And that's what I envision fried chicken is Southern cooking. So I have to ask myself, have they ever been to Publix? Have they ever had Publix chicken?
And my answer would be yes. They all go to Disney World. All of these vloggers.
But it doesn't mean that they go to Publix.
You can't. I'm sorry. Help me out here, but you can't skip Publix if you go there. Publix is everywhere. That is the only real shopping experience you can have in Orlando. So, like, where would they be going to eat?
Well, here, I use this as an example. I have had friends who have visited the South and saw Publix, didn't know what it was, and never went inside. Because they know certain brands, they know Albertsons or they know Whole Foods.
Kroger owns all of those, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
And so they tend to go with the brands that they know and they don't venture out. Now,
okay, so but we're saying Publix chicken. Publix chicken isn't even the best fried chicken
it's really
I've ever
not,
had.
but it's good.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so if you're going to the East Coast, there are other places to get fried chicken that are better than Publix.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, small mom and pops places can make some of the best fried chicken.
This is true. This is true. My grandma used to get some from a gas station in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I mean, when we lived in northern Georgia in Young Harris, almost every gas station had fried chicken.
Yeah.
And I imagine it was comparable to Knott's Berry Farm's fried chicken.
Yeah, probably. And going back to what we were trying to say, it was a disappointment because, like you said, we did a bunch of research. We watched all these people go. Everybody kept saying, like, you got to get the Knott's Berry chicken. You got to get the Knott's Berry chicken. You got to try the boysenberries.
And to piggyback too on something we were talking about a little bit earlier that kind of rolls into this is Nacy's talk about like how these vloggers go to places and everything is sunshine and rainbows. Mm-hmm. We watched one of the videos of the bigger vlogger. He doesn't drink alcohol anymore, but he was invited to a Busch Gardens event and a beer fest. So he just went around talking about how he can't drink any of these beers because he doesn't drink alcohol anymore. Which, by the way, good for you. If you've gone through AA or whatever reason you've given up alcohol, that's awesome. Right. But then why would you cover it? Why would you cover it for your fans and go there and be like, I can't have any of this? Or another big vlogger that we watch is on a health kick, which he seems to have fallen off of lately. But for like a good month, he was on a health kick. And he would shame people, be like, he went to Oogie Boogie Bash and he's like, shaming, these are super sugary foods. It's an event to have fun. Like,
which brings me to another vlogger.
Wait, but one more second. And if you're complaining to Disney about the amount of sugar, complain about the quality of their food and how bad it is.
And
that's
how
what you need to
expensive
complain.
it is.
Yes. But okay, go ahead. What did you say?
I was going to say there's a whole other vlogger group too that we watch that's not a Disney vlogger, and that's all they do is shame people for the calories that they eat. Yes. So all I kept thinking when we were watching this particular vlogger is just like, thanks for making me feel great about you.
Well, the thing is, like, it doesn't hurt you to just say no and pass on something.
Yeah.
It can hurt other people by being like, oh, why are you eating this? Well, maybe that's all they can afford. Maybe that's what they want.
Or like, this isn't healthy. Yeah. This isn't healthy.
And let's be clear.
Nothing.
You don't want to live forever. Climate change is going to get us all in the end.
I just saw an article too that said that there's an asteroid that's set to like hit the Earth. I didn't click the article to see like when. All it said was you've got time, but you know.
Well, if an asteroid is going to hit the Earth, I'm just going to strip down naked and run around going, yeah, because I'm going to get my last jollies out before I die. And then watch the asteroid miss us and be like, oh, I'm naked. Everyone's seeing me naked.
Gary's going to be hauled off to prison, and I'm going to be like, yeah, cool. Didn't see that one coming. That wasn't in my bingo card for 2025. But yeah, so it's just interesting when the shift that we've noticed in the YouTube market of people who made vlogs about their adventures. And that's what it is at the core, is like people want to watch you go on an adventure.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've learned as a content creator is that we've moved more away from being informative. We've moved away from that to being more like, here's our journeys. Come share them with us. Let's have fun.
And I think, and don't get me wrong, you can still be helpful in that space. You can, because again, we drop legit tips all the time when we're like, hey, like this happened. But I think they've lost their way in terms of just go to the park and have fun. Like just go have a fun day and not feel like you have to hit point A, point B, point C and paint it all in a great light. Like there's one vlogging group that we watch, and every single thing they put in their mouth is the most amazing thing they've ever ate. Yes. And we have ate several of their things, and we're like, this is garbage.
And not to just call them out, there are a ton of like TikTokers and stuff too that do Disney stuff. They're always like everything. Oh yeah, that touches
Vegas
their lips.
is just as bad with like the Vegas TikToks. They'll be like, you got to try this restaurant. This restaurant is delicious.
We've stopped.
We
actually had this whole list of TikTok stuff that we had seen. We went to 5 of them. I'm not kidding you. We went to 5 different restaurants. Every time it was an absolute disappointment. We vlogged a few of them. We just didn't even bother the other ones because we're like...
It was disappointing.
Well, and it's because I get tired of just being like, this sucks over and over.
We don't want to be
again.
negative.
This sucks. Yeah. So we try to be like, how are we going to get a positive spin on this? How is it going to be good? And there are times where we go to these restaurants. Like we went to one that was supposed to be like one of the first steakhouses here. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's off the strip.
Oh, yeah.
It's right off the side of this interstate. We were like, oh, this shouldn't be bad because we had this place.
It's been there since the 70s, y'all.
Since the 70s. We had this place called Bubba's in Fort Myers, Cape Coral area that we used to go to. Loved it. I thought it would be like that. It was not. It was like, it smelled like your grandmother's mothball closet. The food was either freezer dried or just tasteless. And it was just like, oh, cool. But if you watch vloggers, they're like, this is the greatest thing since
this is
whatever.
So cool. You gotta check it out. It's nostalgic. It's this, it's that. And like, I'm sorry. Stop with the like overly, like, I think you can still be somewhat positive in some of the things you do where you're like, hey, we're gonna go try this really old steakhouse. It probably isn't gonna be good, but let's see what happens. Instead of being like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is for us as vloggers and just the behind the scenes to our content creation too, every time we say something negative about a restaurant, gets us downvotes. Always gets us downvotes. If you are positive, if you're entirely positive about something, even if it's really bad and you're just like, this is great, there won't be a single downvote. As soon as you're like, this didn't taste good, this was freezer burn, this was X, downvote. And it's like, it's fascinating.
Or there'll always be somebody in the comments that's like, well, I liked it. Or the flip, when we say positive.
I'm not worried about that stuff. But it really makes you wonder, like, is it their marketing department sees it and like, oh, they said something bad, let's give them a downvote. Because there's never really any comments associated with that downvote. It's just a downvote. So I wonder, from a Disney perspective, if you do Disney content, you become a bigger vlogger, are you susceptible to Disney's PR department? And they obviously have bot farms.
Yeah.
Let's not lie. You can look at their movies and stuff and reviews for their movies and stuff.
Bad.
And you know they have bot farms, so this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Do they go and downvote? Is that why everyone's so positive? I mean, those are things that I kind of wonder.
Yeah, it's been a bad summer. But yet everybody keeps talking about how great these movies are.
Or the food is, and we went, and it's, or like even like Food and Wine. Food and Wine was the exact same food they had 4 years ago when we last went. There was very few new things, and it was just like, how are you going to rate this good if they never change anything out? The point of that is to be experimental, interesting taste, fascinating things to do, and they were just the same bland everything.
But yet, if you watch the vloggers, they just talk about how great it is.
Yeah.
And again, you know, moving forward, we do have plans next year to go back to Disney and kind of refocus our Disney content. And there's probably going to be more Disney content in the next year or so. And honestly, I hope we can continue to come to the table and talk about things and be as honest as we can be and not get stuck in that PR bubble of everything is sunshine, rainbows, and daisies because
it's not.
It's
there has
not,
to be some honesty. Like, you have to have some honesty. You can't just go around being like, if everything's great, what's the point of watching you?
And even then, like, where's the reality of it? You know, people tune in to vlogs because they want to see people living in their real life. And if all it is this positive, where can people relate to you on that level if everything is perfect and you're perfect? Because I'm going to be honest, people just sit there and just throw stones at glass houses, and that's what they do.
Oh yeah, there's total. Nacy went down a rabbit hole like a couple weeks ago with this whole hate vlog for some of these vloggers that we watch. And I'm like, why do you bother? Like, who cares? Like, people are going to hate what you do. People are mean, but they're only mean when they're hiding behind a keyboard. If you met them in person, they wouldn't say any of those things. They'd probably be 1,000 times nicer. But you also need to remember too, before we get off the train on the hate thing, people have bad days and they just take it out on other people for, not the right reasons. And you probably shouldn't do that, but it's just what they are. So you don't ever know what those people are going through, that they write those comments or have those anger and frustrations. So I just try to be nice and move on, because really it is what it is.
And, wrapping this segment up with the whole YouTube vlogger space and the shift that we've seen, I still want to preface it with, like, we still watch these vloggers. We still enjoy watching majority of their content. It's just something we've noticed, that there's a shift, and not to be overly negative about it. It's disappointing that they're no longer showing these fun adventures that we used to like to go on with them. And I wish we could see more of that versus everything has to be a PR video put out by ABC. And I think that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to it, especially with the writers.
ABC's owned by Disney, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Fox is owned by Disney too.
Everything's owned by Disney.
I guess NBC is. I think Peacock is the only thing that's not owned by Disney. Yeah, but I agree, and 100%. We watch their adventures, but a lot of like the food vloggers and stuff, we've stopped watching entirely because everything's great. So like, there's a line. Like, we have stopped watching some of the vloggers, but a lot of them, we just wait for them to go on adventures and then watch those. We don't really care about I went to Halloween Horror Nights, or I went to try this meal at X restaurant,
Yeah, we kind of steer away from that. Unless it's a restaurant that we're considering going to, we've never been to before. We will sometimes watch that just to kind of get a feel for what the atmosphere might look like. But honestly, any opinions that they have on the place whatsoever, we don't listen to. Just because it's never usually the same.
Yeah, and if you're listening on Spotify, we are on YouTube at Lost Girl in Tomorrowland, so make sure to head over there to follow our adventures. But this will end our podcast
preview.
Yeah. So if you like it, make sure to hit that thumbs up.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And ring that notification bell so you get notified when we do at least 3 videos a week.
And make sure you guys check out the rest of this podcast anywhere you guys download podcasts. And we will be right back.
Ain't that the truth?
Baby Ruth.
Bye, y'all. All right, thanks for all those who are listening on YouTube. And now we're back over on our main podcast. And our next topic is Halloween traditions.
Yeah, I honestly did not grow up with Halloween traditions. Only because I grew up in a very conservative, super religious household where Halloween was bad for the most part. I think every so often trick-or-treating was allowed if it was at church. If it was like a fall, we would do like a fall festival. So that way it wasn't, Halloween, which is, but obviously costumes that were off limit were like anything that was like of the occult. So like no devils, no witches, nothing scary, nothing with weapons, those kinds of things, and nothing that would, I guess, be viewed as sacrilegious. Those were always like off limits. And
so if they had like cross ninja stars, would those be legal since those were technically crosses?
I don't think I ever saw a costume with cross ninja stars. I mean, I don't know. I saw some people dress up like Jesus and angels, and they were okay with that. It's like,
Of course, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we'll have to circle back for Hell Houses soon because we'll have to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, those were Hell Houses were definitely probably a Halloween tradition. It was definitely something that was like seen as cool in the youth group world of, we weren't allowed to go to scary haunted houses, but we could go to these Hell House things. And I'm going to be honest, thinking about that now as an adult and looking back on it, how, one, traumatizing that was, two, even still, like now trying to unpack that as an adult and like how you made me feel as a teenager. Like, it was just, I mean, don't get me wrong. One year I used it as an excuse to kind of snuggle up to a guy because I was like, I'm scared. Hold me. Can I wear your jacket? Kind of a thing. I still made it work to my advantage, but, still had to pray at the end. And yeah.
So let's pause there. So a Hell House. So for those that don't know, basically a Hell House is sort of like a haunted house, but it's basically just very religious based. Like, the passing of the Savior or whatever, Jesus, whatever you want to call him. Then he gets reborn, and it's sort of this whole process. And then basically the end is based on them telling you that you're probably going to go to hell.
Well, the beginning of the Hell House always starts off with something traumatic. So when you walk into the Hell House, it's always, for a good couple of years, the trend was school shootings because, Columbine
Obviously
had recently happened. Yes. There was like a whole thing, and they really tried to market off of the Columbine shooting.
It's like why porns are always like, it's my sister and brother. It's because it's the easiest way to describe how the person got into their house without it being weird. It's kind of the same thing with religion if you think about it. It's like, what's the easiest way? Well, we'll just do something recent that we can make really horrible, and then we can be like, if you don't believe in our religion, then that's going to happen to you too.
Yeah. And so I can remember, like, you always take the role of like your third party person passively watching something happen, but you're watching it happen through the eyes of this one person, and you go from like room to room to room. Oh. And typically,
I didn't know there was so much to it. Honestly, I've never been to one. In all fairness,
typically, like you have your group. It's not like a constant walkthrough. Like most haunted houses, like if you go to Halloween Horror Nights, it's a walkthrough. Like you walk through the scenes. It's not like you go into a room, you watch a scene unfold, and then you move to the next. No, Hell Houses, or at least every single Hell House that I have ever been to, usually started, you were with your youth group, typically, and you would start in one room where you would see this scene play out, and then when the next room was ready, you would move to the next room. And, like, that's how you would progress throughout the entire thing, is, like, you would have to go from room to room.
So at each scene, they're like, it's a great, horrible, be beautiful tomorrow.
It's basically, it's kind of like that.
Every day. It's a great, big, beautiful Jesus.
If only.
Shining along the way.
There's one that I remember
Boss Girl Productions.
There's one that I remember very vividly. And I think the opening scene was like she was having trouble at home and she wasn't getting along with her parents and they got into a fight. So of course, like, like teenage angst, right? That's how it starts. That's the first room. Next room we went to was now she's at school and oh my God, there's a shooter and she gets shot. Okay. And then you go to the next room. Obviously she dies. And
obviously, how could she live?
And then you go to the next room and it's like people were kind of talking about her and like the kind of life that she lived. And she's watching people talk about her, which obviously is every teenager's worst nightmare, is what do people think about me? And so then you go to the next room, which is like a hell. Oh, no. I take that back. No, it's not. You don't go to the hell room first. You go to the pearly gates. Okay, you go to the pearly gates.
Pearly gates.
And that is where you meet the archangel who tells you watch this scene unfold. The girl goes up to the gates and he's like, "What's your name? which let's be honest, he should have fucking known what her name is. He's like, what's your name? She tells her his name, and he's like looking and he's looking and he's like flipping through pages. He's like, I don't have somebody here by this name. And she's like, oh no, it must be a mistake. There must be a mistake. Da 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 da. I went to church. I did this. I was a good person. And they're like, no, I don't have your name. Which, just trying to unpack that is just fucking traumatizing. Like, the fear, like, in that moment. And don't get me wrong, these are, like, definitely D-list actors doing this. This is, like, a big church that's, like, putting this on. So it's basically the people in the church that are playing out these scenes. And so, because her name's not in the book, now you have to go through the hell scene. So then and the hell scene was more of a walkthrough than it was anything. That was actually probably more like a haunted house, because you start in like one part and you basically like weave through this maze of like different demons and yelling and screaming, and it's very terrifying.
I feel like there's some missed opportunities there. That could have been the perfect Doom boogie.
Maybe. I don't know if churches want to invest that much into it. So you walk through that scene, and it's definitely not, it was definitely not my favorite, but it's made to make you think like this isn't where I want to be. And they also like pipe in smells and stuff, and it's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible room. And so when you get to the other side of that, you're like back, and it's like they're replaying the scene again, except this time the person gets accepted into heaven, and they have like this whole talk of like, if you want to accept the Lord Jesus Christ into your heart, you can now like go into heaven. And so they have this whole prayer thing. And then after that scene, then you go into this room that, I shit you not, was just it was made to look like clouds everywhere. It was very cold. There was a lot of fog machines. And then like they have like Jesus come out, and he like comes out and he like talks to each person and is like, well done, my faithful servant, because supposedly that is what we are told when we arrive in heaven, is well done, my faithful servant. And that's the end of the Hell House.
Okay, so a couple questions here. So did that happen every year?
Yes.
So then you do have Halloween traditions. This is the thing that frustrates me with you, Nacy. You always are like, no, I don't have this.
I went back and I said,
Wait,
no, I
stop.
guess Hell Houses are.
And then stop. So like you're always to the negative. It's always immediately to the negative. I've never done this. And it's like once you start examining, yeah, they weren't good. I'm not going to say they were good, like traditions or anything, but you did clearly have some traditions that you went through every year.
I changed my stance. I went back and I said, oh no, I guess Hell Houses were a tradition.
My problem isn't that you changed your stance. My problem is that you always go to the negative. Like you're always to the negative. Oh, I didn't have anything. And it's like, oh, sure, you didn't have anything. You never done anything on Halloween. So for me, Halloween was pretty straightforward, I guess, as a kid. I mean, we'd go out trick-or-treating every Halloween. Till I was probably in my teens, sometime early teens, I stopped trick-or-treating.
Why?
And then I gave out candy. I just got kind of tired of it. It was, our block was pretty boring, in all honesty. You'd go out for candy, and there'd be a couple houses that would be really decorated, but most of them were just kind of like pretty skimpy. They'd offer the basic treats, but it wasn't anything that, you couldn't already have, because candy was a lot cheaper back then, y'all. I'm that old.
Way cheaper.
But, so it was just like, it just became this, like, it was fun to dress up, but it wasn't the greatest thing. I think my favorite costumes, though, I had a He-Man costume, I remember. I had a Data costume.
So cute.
I had a Data costume that I loved. My mom
I haven't seen the Data costume. Oh, I'll have to ask your dad if he has a picture of it.
My mom took a sweatshirt, with puffy paints, if you remember what puffy paints were back in the day. She basically made it to look like the Starfleet uniform. It was super hot because it was Florida, 1,000 degrees in the summer, but it was still fun. Those are the two I really remember. But we go out, and I remember one year I went with my friend to, his mom would take their car out, and they had this big Lincoln. So you'd like jump on the back of the Lincoln, and they would like drive you to the wealthy neighborhood so you could go and trick or treat for the big candies. So that was a fun year, but that only happened one time. And that was probably my funnest trick-or-treating Halloween. But as for traditions, that was pretty much it for my family. My family didn't have any really big traditions. I know probably sometime in September, my mom would decorate. So she'd put we'd have like window clings. They'd have some stuff in the yard, but not nearly as much as the Christmas stuff that my dad did. So there was a little bit, but it was more, I would say, toned down.
And we don't really have any Halloween traditions that we do every year. I feel like every year we do something a little bit different. Like one year I tried to carve pumpkins and they came out pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Like they came out pretty good because I had never carved pumpkins before. And then another year we handed out candy a couple of years. And a couple of years we had some big turnouts. And we were never, ever fully prepared for any of them.
The Syracuse year was one I remember. For some odd reason, the college
one in the
neighborhood that we lived in got a ton of kids. And then we lived in the Cape, but we lived right outside the wealthy neighborhood. So that one kind of made sense. We just weren't prepared for it. The one in Syracuse, I still don't understand why we got so many that night.
They were busing in kids into that neighborhood. And
it was college kids. Like all the houses around us were either, there was a couple professors, but the rest of them were all like rentals for college.
Yeah.
So it was really weird that they all chose to go there.
And it was cold too. We thought it was going to snow.
It was going to snow. Yeah, it did snow before Thanksgiving there.
Yeah. I think I did make a candy run both of those trips.
You did. And the sad thing is every time we do the candy run, by the time you get back, it's over.
Gone, yeah.
It's over. So it's like,
sad.
We did candy run.
And now every year I'm always prepared and we get nobody.
Well, I think, okay, so we live in Las Vegas. For those that don't know, we are surrounded by HOAs, which means that they all have gates. So I can't imagine how trick-or-treating worked in Las Vegas because you can't get into any of the communities to trick-or-treat. So
it's frustrating. I do know here they do a lot of trick-or-treating at the casinos, which is weird.
Well, no, it's not. Because money.
But they do have stuff at the mall and they have stuff at the casinos where kids can go and trick or treat. Now, I don't know how much candy they hand out and I don't know how big it is, but they do it obviously during daylight hours, like pretty early in the day. It's kind of like an early thing.
So that to me defeats the purpose. Like the point of Halloween is nighttime. You're supposed to be having fun at night. You know, like,
and it's interesting that people have definitely shifted away from that. And even I feel like when we were kids, people were trying to shift away from that, talking about like, oh, they'll hide razor blades in your kids' candy, which has been proven to be false.
Happened. Yeah.
You know, like
that's never happened, folks.
Or
never.
Now the new thing is like, oh, they'll give your kids THC gummies.
I ain't giving you none of my expensive
I ain't giving
gummies.
you my gummies. Those things are expensive. They're like $2 a piece.
Well, let's pretend, because obviously it's going to be a family member that does this. Just FYI, all of these things that pretended to happen with strangers all happened with family members. But nonetheless, you give them a THC gummy. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're just going to be hungry the rest of the night. They might go to sleep early.
They might feel a little nauseated if they ate too many.
Yeah,
but
and that's kind of and again, ain't no one going to do it because it costs too much.
It's
just not going to happen.
But yeah, so, you know, I feel like they were trying to push to get away from that. And I think it's always been that mantra for a while is trying to keep people at home, which is so stupid. I feel like it's a very American thing to do. They don't trick or treat in other countries.
Yeah, and it's about establishing community. The problem is that for whatever reason, there's outside forces that have definitely been trying to push us apart from communities, to try to separate us, to try to isolate us. And Halloween is definitely a sort of casualty of that war. That separation results in people not going out, people not even preparing. But we do try, as us, we do try to do something every year around Halloween. So the first year I think we were here, we did that drive-through. Remember that drive-through that we did?
Yeah.
That was so fun, but so bad at the same time.
So the year before was COVID. And during COVID in LA, they did this sick Stranger Things drive-through experience.
Was so cool.
Which goes back to the first thing that we talked about, like vloggers doing cool shit. And that was cool.
Yeah.
I loved watching it. I watched a bunch of people go to it because I thought it was so freaking cool.
Well, I think that the difference there is that it's sort of like a once-in-a-lifetime event. So it makes sense why you have to like capture it, and I hope they bring it back someday.
Yeah,
I don't know
that would
why
be
they
so awesome.
moved away from it, but nonetheless.
I think that was like the coolest thing that anybody could do for Halloween was do this drive-through experience show thing. And we thought, hey, Vegas is going to do one. Let's go check it out. And I had my sister and her boyfriend at the time. They came with us too. And it was so cheesy. It was so cheesy, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
And they were giving out candy at the end, but only to kids. So we didn't get any candy, which we were a little bummed out about because we drove all the way over to Henderson.
Yeah, we drove all the way across Vegas to go to this thing. We didn't think it was going to be great, so it's not like we were super surprised, but we thought it'd be
Yeah.
fun, and it was. But it was more like 30 people maybe
Yeah.
doing this set, and it was
interesting.
fun.
Now we do caveat to that is every Christmas we do a drive-through light thing, but even those are pretty fun. So I think they need to bring back more drive-through experiences, 100%. Because I think one, it keeps you kind of, if you've got little kids, you can kind of keep them contained in the car, but you're also kind of like doing something fun as a family together. And yeah, so that's what I think. I'm just smacking myself in the face. If you guys, you should go check us out on Patreon and see the video feed for this because
we actually upload this to Spotify too. So if you're on Spotify, you can watch it as a video as well.
Yeah, so I smack myself in the face a lot when because I'm fidgety when I talk. I talk with my hands. It's just how I am. Don't judge me.
Well, so a couple things. So the drive-through Christmas lights things, I feel like it's different because it's just lights. But I do feel like there's an opportunity there for Halloween stuff to come out and do it. And another thing too for kids, right, is that they're safe. So they're safe inside a car. Nothing's going to get them. And I feel like that gives them a level of safety to feel more comfortable. So you don't get as much screaming. And maybe you can take your little kids to experience it if they like horror movies. Obviously, I'm not saying shove your kid there if they hate it, but it definitely is an opportunity.
So now I'm having this thing like come back, and I don't think it was just for COVID, but there was a place that basically it was a drive-up movie theater, and they had a bunch of, so you went and you parked and they played a movie, but like they also had these scare actors that would come out to your car and like bang on like stuff, and I don't know, did they just do that one for COVID too?
I haven't seen anything of it since then.
Because that looked really cool too, and I'm just now thinking about that. Like,
and the sucky thing was too, all of it happened on the West Coast. There was nothing on the East Coast at all that sort of did anything about that, which was kind of weird. But at the same time,
and now we're out here, and there's not anything cool like that,
right?
Which is such a bummer. So yeah, and then we talked about we went to New Orleans 2 years ago. And we really, really, really wanted to go back to New Orleans for spooky season last year. And then we're like, well, maybe this year. Hopefully next year we can definitely do more spooky locations. It's a lot to plan and travel. And we definitely wanted to experience these spooky towns.
So for us as content creators, when we're looking at scary experiences, there's a couple things. Obviously, there's only a very small window. So like we have to get there between X and X dates, and a lot of times that's right around filming stuff. So it's like, okay, how much effort do we want to put into this and get that filmed? So that gives us a problem. The second problem is obviously we have to get it edited and put up, which takes a lot of time depending on what we do. And then the third problem is like location. Like we have to go to these places. Las Vegas, honestly, doesn't do very much for Halloween. It doesn't really do much for Christmas either. Right?
We were supposed to be getting a Halloween Horror Nights addition to Area 15, but it still hasn't opened yet. I mean, I think they're still working on it.
Maybe they're D23 in it.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But yeah,
I was hopeful that was going to come out.
But again, that wouldn't be a Halloween specific thing. I mean, it is Halloween focused, but it wouldn't be just a Halloween time. That's going to be a year round thing.
Yeah, I was hoping they would be done though for the spooky season.
But and that goes back to what I just said though.
Yeah.
Las Vegas doesn't have much. There's nothing that they do that are one offs other than like the Bellagio
fall
gardens.
Yeah.
And it's not really Halloween focused. It's more fall focused, but that's the only thing that really changes. Everything else is kind of static. Like you can go to like the Titanic exhibit for Halloween if you wanted to, but you can also do that the rest of the year. Same thing with some of the other stuff. That's what I mean when there's not very much specific stuff for Halloween and all the little things.
We went to the parade in Summerlin.
Right. And all the little things are just kind of small. Like the parade's a small parade. The drive-through thing was a small drive-through experience. There's not like a lot of money invested into it. So you're just kind of doing these little things and there's nothing
And like
big.
You think about the drive-through thing, like these casinos have sick parking garages that they could just...
No, I mean, they got to park the people. They want gamblers. They don't care about anything else. That's the thing
It's
about
just,
casinos.
it's disappointing.
Which
it's
is
disappointing.
One of the things, it's not disappointing. It's just what Vegas is. But another thing I was going to say too, when it comes to us as content creators trying to do these things, we have to get there, right? And all of these places are packed. So we watched a video from a vlogger that we watch that does kind of road trips, and he went to Salem, Massachusetts. And he's like, "Oh, I want to go." And I'm like, "That's fine. Let's just go in a month that's not October. Why are we going in a busy month?" Nothing that he did wouldn't be there except for this sort of like flea market thing that was in the middle of the square. Oh no, we've got to go during. Why? Why do we have to go where we stand in lines? Let's just go when there's no one there.
I would be okay with September
You just enjoy it and then you move on. Well, I think, yeah, maybe.
because I want it to be cool. I want it to be cooler weather when I go. That's what I care about. I want it to be cooler weather so that
So
I
then
can
you can go in like March.
But I want to see the leaves change color. I want to see the leaves change color, and I want it to be cooler. So September works for me. September works for me.
But anyway, so like you go there, and if you go to these places, any of these like places like Salem, there's Halloween Town that's up in Oregon. If you actually watch the Nickelodeon, or is it Disney? It was a Disney movie called Halloween Town back in the day. There was like 3 of them. They actually have a town every year in Oregon that recreates Halloween. It's where I guess
It's awesome.
I don't know if it's where they filmed it, but they definitely took inspiration from it. I think they might have filmed it there too.
They might have, yeah.
And they actually put like the big pumpkin out and everything. And there's like this whole Halloween Town thing, which would be awesome to go to, but the crowds are insane. Crowds are just insane. It's like going to Halloween Horror Nights. Like you got to buy the express pass to see anything.
Yeah.
Like I don't really want to do that with my free time. I don't want to stand in lines with my free time.
The other place I want to go is Sleepy Hollow. And Sleepy Hollow is a place that you can only go in the fall to get the fall things. Because when we went and did our road trip in New York, I had it on my list of places to potentially stop in. But when I did all the research on what there was to actually do in Sleepy Hollow, there was absolutely nothing. The only time they have stuff in Sleepy Hollow is from September to November. And that's it.
So let's have a real conversation here. Pause that for a second. We did go to Ichabod Crane's house in Albany. If you want to see that on our YouTube channel, Lost Girl in Tomorrowland.
That was
so
cool.
that's part of Sleepy Hollow. But what do you want to see in Sleepy Hollow?
So they do a whole headless horseman thing.
So you want to see a guy dressed up as the headless horseman? Okay.
Yeah, and then they actually act out Ichabod Crane. Like
So they do a play.
Yeah, so they do a whole.
So you just want to go there for a play.
And then they also do like a tour of Sleepy Hollow and like different things that they took inspiration from with the story and like that kind of stuff.
Okay, and they don't do that in the off season?
They don't.
I guarantee you they do. I guarantee you can look up like Fiverr or something and find the tour guide and be like, "Hey, how much do you get paid?" "All right, I'll pay you that if you'll take me on a private tour."
Okay, so I didn't do hours of research looking into this.
I mean,
New
that's
York
the
road
thing.
trip.
Like, there's like, that's the thing about these trips. Like, we're going to these places. All of these locations are static. They don't leave. Like, famous houses, famous things don't disappear in the off season. They're still there in the off season. Just people don't go to see them. So why not go in the off season to see them? Is my question. It would make it easier to see them. You don't have tons of crowds, and you'll have the whole place to yourself.
I just preferred to see it in the season. That's just my personal preference. I understand it's not yours, but it's just my personal preference to really feel like I'm there and I'm in the mood. And it just, I don't know. Like I said, I would be okay with September. I would be okay doing Halloween stuff in September.
So it brings us back to like traditions. So one of our traditions is to try to do something different every Halloween. I mean, that's kind of what we do. And I don't know what we're going to do this year because
we're going to try. We're going to try and do a ghost tour in Charleston.
Yes.
That is on our list of spooky things to try.
That shouldn't be that difficult. There's like hundreds of ghost tours in Charleston.
And then I think the other thing we may try to do, this is just going to depend on how the 2 weeks go, is to maybe take an impromptu trip to Disneyland in the fall and just show all the fall overlay stuff. Like Oogie Boogie Bash is completely sold out, so there's no hope in going to that. And I'm not going to Mickey's Not So Scary. So Disney Halloween parties are out. I'm not going to try and go to Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood because I have heard nothing but bad things from Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, so we went to Oogie Boogie last year? Or the
Year before.
It's nice. It's a fun little experience, but there's not much to it. So to me, it's not worth it. Like there's not enough there. Just go during the day. You can see the decorations and stuff. There's only a few things that you're going to miss. And most of that's character meetings, which if you're into character meetings, then that's something you should consider. But I'm not. So again, not a big deal. They have a parade, but you can honestly see that on YouTube if you want to, or anywhere else. And it's the same as it was last year. So you're watching the same thing that you watched the year before. So there's nothing different there. So there's not that much going on when we talk about new at those things. That's why, to me, it's like if we go, we go. If we don't, I'm not missing anything. I've already seen all of this. They're not Disney specifically is not updating it, and then Halloween Horror Nights is just a horror
Absolute
fest.
nightmare.
Yeah,
I would be interested maybe in trying like Not Scary Farm, maybe. That's a maybe. I don't know, but I think this year because I am working on Halloween. I don't know if I'll be on a case or not, but we will be in Charleston for it, and I think my friend is going to be joining us in Charleston for that week too. So, not sure 100% what we're going to get into that week. But those videos definitely won't come to the channel till probably November if we do venture out. But if we do the spooky ghost tour, we'll definitely try to get that out before Halloween.
and something else too. We watched another vlogger go to the Six Flags in, I guess, California. I think it's around Los Angeles, but I'm not 100% sure where that Six Flags is. They went to the thing, and out of the houses, there's like 8 houses. 2 of them were open, and
Yeah.
there were 2 that were actual main properties. Like they bought 2 properties, Six Flags did. I think it was Saw and something else, and neither of those were open when the event started. So people are paying full price to go to this event, and then they don't even have the stuff open. It's kind of indicative of what these
Yeah.
events have become overall, not outside of Six Flags overall, is like
Disappointment.
with disappointment. But so they're packing way too many people in there so that they can't enjoy the experiences. So they're overselling.
So you're forced to buy.
To upgrade. So they're overselling. They underdo it. Like they do these like pitiful things, and then you have on top of that, you're just stuck with the crowds and stuff. It's like, is it really worth it for some of these events?
Yeah. And, like you said, like it just depends on what it is that I'm after. Like, what is it that I want to do? And yeah, I mean, I wanted to go to Oogie Boogie Bash this year. I did. But I couldn't get tickets and I wasn't going to cry about it. I was just like, all right, whatever. Tickets aren't available. If it was meant to be, it's meant to be. That's great. Now my sister's going to Mickey's Not So Scary, I think this weekend. So I'll have to check with her and see how she liked it. She's bringing my niece. My niece has never been. They're going to dress up like Encanto characters.
Encanto.
So I'll be interested to see how she thinks, because I don't think Alyssa's ever been to Mickey's Not So Scary. I think she worked it when she was a cast member. But I don't think she's ever attended it as a guest, and obviously it's Lily's first time as well. And and our first experience at Mickey's Not So Scary wasn't great. It wasn't the worst thing that's ever happened, because I'm going to be honest, the Valentine's Day event at Disneyland was probably the worst Disney event I've ever been to. But Mickey's Not So Scary was okay because we had a decent view for fireworks, because honestly, the year we went, it wasn't like they had castle projections or anything. This was before they brought in Jack Skellington and the castle projections.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't really matter where you stood as long as you could hear the music and you could see the fireworks. So we had an okay shot. It was just, there was a grandma that kept trying to shove her kid in our face. And we were just like, okay, this is not cool. And that was the year they actually had pirates and Pirates of the Caribbean, which was cool. This year they're not in Pirates of the Caribbean. They're kind of like out wandering, which... okay, but I liked it better when they were in the ride. I thought that was really cool.
This is what I'm talking about, though. Like Disney is pulling an EA, right? They pull out stuff. They put it in these cool things. You're like, oh, that's a cool experience. And they take it away. And then they introduce it back like it's the first time they've ever done it. And this is the first time the pirates are going to be. And it's like, no, it's not.
Right.
Like you're EAing it. You're taking out features,
And it used
charging
to
us
be,
more, and then giving us a little bit back and nothing new.
and it used to be too, when they had Sorcerer's of the Magic Kingdom, you could get your special Mickey's Not So Scary
That
card.
was my favorite part.
Which was really awesome. But that game is no longer there, and there's no longer that free souvenir. Free. I mean, you pay to get into that event, but free. Which
I understand. You don't need to put air. She's putting air quotes around free like 400 times. Like we don't understand what she's saying. Yes, I get it. You have to pay to get in, but it is free. Like,
and then too, they changed up how they do the candy now. It used to be they would just like grab like a big handful of candy, and now apparently there's scoops. I mean,
well, and the sad thing about the candy thing is that it's free. They actually
get it from Mars.
They get paid to advertise Mars, and they get this candy for free. And yet they're still complaining It's like the micromanagement.
Yeah.
100%. Like micromanagement 1.1. How can we make sure that we micromanage? Who cares? Just let them hand out the candy and let people have fun. You're not going to run out of it. It's free.
But I do hope one day in the future, when we have our own place, that we can have traditions within that place. Like, I would love to have some Halloween decorations to put out. I would love to have some of like the inflatables and like those kinds of things and just make it fun. Gary and I have talked about making a type of like haunted house type of thing and like what we would do. Would we keep it funny? Would we make it serious? Would we do both like the Haunted Mansion does? I think it would be really fun to have a lot of fun with the season because it's something I never really got to do. Two, we've never really been in the place, one, to do it because we rent. Yeah. And two, financially, it's a lot. And if you rent, even if you have the money financially, you have to have a place to store everything when it's not season. And we just don't have that right now. And also, we travel a lot. So, you know, we're not really home long enough to put it out. And when you're not home, people try to steal stuff. So, you know, there's that whole caveat too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day. I've never been a big Halloween person, so I like Halloween. I don't have anything against it. It's just, for me, it's just a nice holiday that you should get a day off work for.
And I think I would definitely like to bring back the pumpkin carving stuff. I would love to do that. Now, I think Tia and I have some plans for Halloween for this year, so I guess we can talk about what our plans are going to be for this year.
Yeah, it kind of rolls us into our next station. What ideas do you have for this fall / Halloween area? Time of year would be a better word.
Well, so we're gonna put on a sheet and we're gonna take ghost pictures. Tia and I are. We're gonna like have Gary come with us, and we're just gonna go to random places around the strip. I think it would be really cool to have like the strip stuff behind us as like a backdrop. And then, I don't know, maybe find some random deserted or at least looking deserted locations. And we're gonna take pictures. And then we had also talked about trying to get a thrifted like photo and like turn it into a ghost painting. But we went looking and it turned out to be harder than we thought it was going to be. So we just gave up. We were just like, eh. So that's one of the things. I think I'd like to just sit down and have like a fall movie day, / like movie, like shows that are like Halloween episodes and just sit down and watch them. Like, why not? I love to burn my fall candles.
So what is your favorite Halloween movie then?
Ooh. Okay. I have a couple, honestly, that I think and we watched one of them today. I like The Muppets Haunted Mansion. Okay. That is definitely up there. I also like Ichabod Crane. I like Ichabod Crane. I don't know why. I just do. I like it. I like The Headless Horseman. It just kind of screams fall to me, I guess. And I think I like Hocus Pocus. I wasn't allowed to watch it when I was a kid, so I like Hocus Pocus. And I like Halloween Town, but that's just because I grew up watching Halloween Town, so it's kind of a little nostalgic to me. The movie's terrible. Like, all three of them.
Whoa. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's terribly cheesy.
I watched it for the first time like 2 years ago. It is not the worst holiday. It's one thing, holiday movies are hard. Let's just give it, holiday movies are hard. If you try to put a holiday movie out, it's a hard field to crack into and do a good movie. You can do an easy holiday movie, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good.
True.
So,
I don't really get into like the slasher films or anything like that. I don't really think I've never been into.
Well, that kind of brings me to the next question. What does quantify as a Halloween movie? Is it just kind of scary? Because Hocus Pocus, why is that considered a Halloween movie?
Because it's witches and it takes place on Halloween.
Does it take place on Halloween?
It takes place on Halloween. Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was I thought it was the day that they got burned. So the day that they got burned at the stake was Halloween. What a coinky dink right there.
Well, yeah, because everybody gets all dressed up to go to the Halloween party down at City Hall.
That's true, but isn't that weird that the one day they get burned at a stake? I figured it was just a celebration of the death of those sisters, well, but no, you're right. It makes more sense.
And I think because way back then, it's All Hallows Eve, which is a witch day.
So that's the day they decided to burn the witches.
Yeah, and okay. I don't know a whole lot about witchcraft. or Wiccans or anything like that. It's definitely something that I've wanted to learn more about.
Yeah. Okay. Let's not go into that here.
So, if I say something that's not right, it's just based on the movies I've seen.
Okay, but it goes back
I've
to my
never
question.
seen-
So, what makes something a Halloween movie?
I think if it takes place on Halloween, okay, that's one.
Okay, of course.
I think
That's why Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
and Gremlins too.
Gremlins too, yeah, and
Gremlins
Gremlins
is-
1.
Gremlins is Gremlins and Nightmare Before Christmas. Those are all like Christmas movies because they take place on Christmas. But
technically, Nightmare Before Christmas takes place in between, right? Because he has to kidnap Santa before Christmas.
but he also delivers all the stuff on Christmas Day,
Right.
so it does happen on Christmas.
Yeah, so it's actually both.
It's both. That is probably the one movie I think that's both.
There's like Serendipity, I believe that actually goes through like a whole year of holidays, but it's like a love romance movie.
Yeah. I think if it takes place on or around Halloween, it's a Halloween movie.
Okay, so then why are slashers Halloween movies?
Because I think people associate Halloween with scary.
Okay.
And if it's a scary, then people tend to dedicate watching scary movies right when things start getting cold and they're stuck inside. And for some reason, they enjoy terrifying themselves. I personally don't necessarily enjoy terrifying myself. Slasher movies never really got me worked up. I've watched several, I've watched a lot of the Halloween movies. I've watched like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To me, the gore is just I don't like gore. It just doesn't do anything for me. I see enough gore in my real life job. I see enough trauma in my real life job that like watching Hollywood fake shit just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I think for me, when it comes to the scary movies and Halloween, the only ones I've really cared for were I didn't mind the first Scream movie, but I don't really go back to it. But it's more of a humor movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot more like humor to it. Whereas like I've seen all of the I shouldn't say all because I think they've come out with more since I actually watched them. I've seen all up to a point. I saw all the Halloween movies. I saw like the Friday the 13th. None of them were really.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the Friday the 13th
something
ones.
I really enjoyed. So it's just kind of like something that I don't really go back and revisit.
Yeah.
So for me, Halloween movies are more like I'll watch them if someone's watching them. I don't have anything against them. It's just I don't go out of my way to like pick them up and watch them. The only one that I've probably seen more than once was The Grudge.
The Grudge, yeah.
The Grudge, yeah. The Grudge, yeah. That's The Grudge, not The Grudge.
But here's a fun fact. We
Grudge
watched
a
that
little
on
bit, too.
Valentine's Day, guys.
And then like even Scream I haven't seen more than once. I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas I have. That's technically a Halloween movie. That's kind of, I don't watch that many. And Hocus Pocus I've seen a few times, but.
I've never seen Practical Magic. I want to see Practical Magic. And
Have you seen The Craft?
I have not watched The Craft. I want to watch The
Okay.
Craft.
I don't mind The Craft.
I like witch movies. I like movies that have witches in it. I find that whole occult thing to be fascinating. Probably because I was told as a child that it's evil and it's bad. And if I do it, it opens doors for bad things. And that is not what I believe. I do not believe that.
So then why do you keep repeating it? See, the thing is, if you don't believe things, you just let them go and don't repeat them, and they kind of go away. But I think for me, when we talk about Halloween stuff, the things I think about the most about Halloween stuff is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
And she had some good Halloween episodes, but I also just think about I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then like Christmas, not Christmas episodes, like Halloween episodes, like of like Family Matters,
Simpsons.
Full House. The Simpsons have great ones. Old ones. The new ones haven't been that great, but that's a conversation for another day as well. So Treehouse of Horrors are pretty decent. But I think of like just like weird. I remember a Steve Urkel one where he was like, I think he became Frankenstein or something in the episode. So again, not scary, just kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Those are what I think about when people talk about like Halloween episodes for myself. Like what would be Halloween? And I don't remember. I remember the one Buffy episode where they dressed up as soldiers and Xander became a soldier and then Buffy became like this like cheerleader thing and it was like all off. It was a great episode. And that's
And then like
probably
what
one of the
about
ones.
Halloween songs? Like do you listen to like Halloween like certain songs like during certain times of the year? Like I like the idea of like on Halloween, if I was giving out candy and this was a perfect world and I could do everything I wanted, is I would like make like a little Halloween playlist, or I would be making the playlist on the TV to be playing while I'm like handing out candy.
What songs are you thinking of here?
So like,
I'm
so
going blank.
Thriller.
Okay, so Thriller's okay.
I think of Thriller as like a Halloweenish song. I think it's appropriate for a
I
Halloween
mean, I love
party.
the song, so I'm not hating it. But
Somebody's watching me.
another Michael Jackson
Yeah.
song. Okay.
I think. Oh God, I feel like I had Monster Mash.
Okay, I'm aware. Yeah, Monster Mash. That's the only one I really thought of when you said Halloween songs. Was like the Monster Mash.
I can tell you too. Let me see.
So, I guess I don't. For me, if I'm handing out candy, I just have like a movie on in the background, like a Halloween movie on the background, Hocus Pocus, something like that. Something that's not too gory, because I wouldn't want, I'm handing out candy to little people if they're coming, so I don't want them to be too overly scared of what I'm watching.
Apparently, I Want Candy is a good Halloween playlist song.
Good to know. I think.
Oh yeah, well, Werewolves of London. That's a good one. That's a good one. I do like that one.
Okay.
Highway to Hell by AC/DC.
Okay, I don't take that as a Halloween song, but okay, I don't mind that song.
It's just to put in your Halloween playlist, I guess.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not in here, but I would say the Phantom of the Opera. I think Phantom of the Opera, I think certain songs, which kind of makes me want to watch it now. I do love Phantom of the Opera. That's another one I think that could fall in a fall/Halloween movie. It's not really a scary play, but it does have spookier elements to it because there's the whole Phantom, and Disney did a whole play on Phantom of the Opera, and they did Phantom of the Cineplex. Golden. That's a golden one. We have to pull that one out of the vault.
Okay.
But yeah, I think those are definitely some of my Halloween go-tos. And I guess I could light my candle, turn down the air conditioning if it's still warm, and listen to some stuff to make me get in the mood for fall, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things I attribute to fall the most, weirdly, that I don't even watch it that much anymore, is football. Like it tends to start there. You'd have the window. So we grew up in Southwest Florida, so really hot area, really humid area. So when we get to fall, you can finally start opening the windows a couple days. You have that nice breeze rolling in.
Oh, so good.
You got like a football game or something on the TV. I think that's kind of what I attribute to fall.
Yeah.
So not scary, obviously. It's kind of scary, but for different reasons.
We were watching the football game last week, and I told you, I was like, this feels like fall.
Right, and especially with the Gators at that time, that's probably the scariest thing about Halloween right there. 2008 or so, 2005. But yeah, so that's sort of what I attribute to Halloween. But again, I don't really have many traditions. I'd love to do a graveyard someday and do that whole thing and do like a haunted house.
We did cool.
Killer Clowns. That's a Halloween movie.
Oh yeah, that's a Halloween movie, which we recently started watching it. So we'll probably watch it again this year. Maybe.
Yeah, rewatching it, yeah.
Yeah,
and they're supposed to have a video game coming out too. So
they've really been pushing the Killer Clowns this year.
Well, I think it was their 20th anniversary either this year or last year. Yeah. So that's kind of why it's.
And I think too, both of us grew up in the same area for the most part. For me, and both of our birthdays are within like 10 days of each other. So we both are fall babies. And so I think when I think about fall, I love Christmas too. I do. I absolutely love Christmas. But when I think about fall, I love the fall season because one, it's birthdays. Now it's also our wedding anniversary in that whole mix too. And then
Macy hitting things with her hands.
I just have so many things. But also too, I think the reason why when we think of fall and we think about it fondly is like what you said, we could open the windows. And something about opening your windows and getting that crisp or cooler. It wasn't always crisp, but occasionally you would get a cold front in October. And just having your windows open and having that fresh air, it hits you like something else. And even here, as soon as we can open our windows, which hopefully should be when we come back in October, opening the windows and just feeling that cold air. And I'm so excited. We're going to go see his dad in November, and we're going to be up in the mountains, and I know it's going to be cold. And I'm excited to just walk out onto the porch and feel that cold morning air. And his dad makes coffee in the morning, so I cannot wait to have like a nice, just thinking about it is just like the good feels of like having a hot cup of coffee, sitting on the porch. It's quiet. Sadly, it'll be even quieter this time, but
Yeah, it's because his puppy that barked a lot passed away of cancer.
Because Zizi won't be there.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of the OGs, unfortunately, but we're gonna have Coda, and so I'm really excited to just kind of enjoy the last bit of fall in the mountains, because it'll be the first week of November, so it's like right at the end of fall, and just getting to enjoy that cold weather. I love cold weather. I don't like snow, but I like that cooler weather and seeing the leaves change and just having my pumpkin spice latte and smelling my pumpkin spice candles and wearing sweaters and thicker socks and wearing boots. And actually, I love being cozy. I love wearing hoodies and leggings. That is my go-to. And in the fall, nobody looks at me like I'm crazy because I'm wearing seasonal appropriate clothes. When I wear those clothes in the summertime, people look at me like I'm crazy. So that is true. But I think that's why I really enjoy the fall season. And I love Christmas too, because in Christmas it's still cold. So I still get to do the things that I do in fall. It's a continuance.
Well, it's the funny thing. So when I was a kid, I definitely liked Halloween because I liked the trick-or-treating side of it. And obviously I like candy. So even when I wouldn't go trick-or-treating, my mom would have more candy in the house around Halloween time. So you got that. I didn't really care for Thanksgiving as a kid. And we can talk about this on a later Thanksgiving episode, but salt and seasonings were not friends of my family. So we'll talk about that on a later episode though. And then you got to Christmas, and I loved Christmas because I love the lights. So I used to always go and like walk around the neighborhood and look at the lights. And my dad is an electrician, so he's all about lighting and everything like that when I was a kid. So it was amazing. But now as an adult, I honestly like Thanksgiving better than Halloween because we make good food. So Halloween has sort of fallen off of my radar, and then we normally work. So we're typically normally working on the Halloween. So we never really do Halloween parties. We never really dress up. And even if we did, so here's a question. So if we did dress up for Halloween, I know this year we won't be able to, what would you dress up as?
Oh God, what would I want to dress up as this year? That's a great question. It is definitely something I have put absolutely zero thought into it. But if money wasn't a factor, time wasn't a factor, Ursula? Because I've never dressed up as Ursula before.
So like a big old Ursula with the tentacles and what's his Flicks and Esmo or whatever?
Flotsam and Jetsam.
Flotsam and Jetsam.
Flotsam and Jetsam. Yeah, I think I would want to do Ursula or do an Ariel. One of the two. Or do one of the two. I don't know. I've never really dressed up like either of those characters, and I think it would be interesting to dress up as either one. But I also have I get really self-conscious about a lot of things. Which, if you guys have a chance, you should go over to our YouTube channel and just watch us go walk around Spirit Halloween, because I definitely talked about Halloween costumes in that video. Yeah. What about you? What would you dress? Would you dress up as my Eric if I dressed up as Ariel? Or are we into couples costumes? Would we do that?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So if you're a couples costumes, I don't know if I dress up as Eric. I don't know enough about, like, he's such a secondary character. Right. He's such a secondary character. And other than driving the boat into Ursula, that's really the only thing he does good in that movie.
Yeah, he gets stuck up on finding some girl with his voice instead of seeing what's right in fucking front of him.
And then again, the only thing he does good in the movie, which is what I was talking about, see, Nate, he always goes to the negative. The only thing he does good in the movie is drive the boat into Ursula, right? That's all he does. Yeah. Except for in the remake, obviously, where
you could be Scuttle.
He doesn't get to do anything.
Or Sebastian. I think Sebastian does a lot more.
If you're stuck on the Little Mermaid theme, it would definitely take some thought. I'd probably be like King Triton or something. No. I mean, that's the only character
Oh,
that I like
God.
that I can say that was interesting.
Here's the problem with King Triton.
He's your daddy. Yes, I get that. It would be your daddy.
King Triton. And okay, so when I was a kid, my dad did enjoy watching The Little Mermaid with me. That was a movie we would watch together. And he would always, after the movie was over, or like anytime he needed to tell me something, he would be like, Ariel. Like he would just like do the King Triton voice. And so no King Triton, please. No King Triton. But I think it would be funny. It still would be funny.
Yeah.
I like the idea of maybe Max. Max or Scuttle or even Flounder.
Maybe again, if we stuck with Little Mermaid, I think I would be more interested in doing like a Roger Rabbit and you being a Jessica Rabbit.
I would love to be Jessica
funner.
Rabbit. That was another costume I would love to do.
If we were doing couples costumes, if it was just me, I guess there's a few things I would be. I mean, I wouldn't be against going to like a Starfleet officer or something. That would be kind of simple and nerdy.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind going as a Jedi, very simple too, or an assassin from Assassin's Creed. That'd be kind of cool too.
Yeah. What about like, would you ever dress up to go to a con?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Old
We've
days.
never been to a con. Like,
So we've talked about this off camera. If we go to a con, I want to just go and experience the con. So I wouldn't dress up for the first time. I would just kind of go and see it. I don't think cons are as good as they used to be.
yeah.
Just from what we've seen other vloggers through the years, plus just looking at what actually goes to cons anymore. Definitely have gone on the bright side, or I should say on the lower side. It was definitely brighter back in the day. But I would be against dressing up as something for a con.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of Jessica Rabbit. I think I've always wanted to be a Jessica Rabbit, but I also don't really have the body for it currently. Maybe in the future, I might feel more confident in my body. It's just one of those things, like I feel like you have to feel confident in your costume.
True. But you do have to remember that she was drawn. So like there is no actual Jessica Rabbit.
This is true.
So
this is true.
Jessica Rabbit doesn't exist. And Roger Rabbit's short, and I'd be going as Roger Rabbit, and I'm apparently in like 13% of the population of height. So I guess that'd be a little off too, but I would still do it. I don't have any problems with it. I think those would be my kind of like go-tos.
Yeah.
They're easy. Like all of those are kind of easy.
My go-to when I was like in high school was always like schoolgirl.
Of course. Women's costumes.
Schoolgirl.
Well, women's costumes are always just, you get either one. You get sexy, right? So it's sexy. It's either sexy nurse, sexy teacher, sexy
nun,
sexy student, sexy nun. Yeah, it's like all that.
sexy cheeseburger.
Sexy Harley Quinn, you know? Or it's like, I don't know. It's mostly sexy.
Absolutely,
it's mostly
or
sexy.
it's absolutely boring.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's either boring or sexy, but there's no real in between.
Yeah.
Like you'll occasionally see like a girl goes like Metro or something, which is like, oh, that's cool, thought provoking. You actually thought about that because that is a girl. But most of the time, it's just kind of like these bland costumes are sexy. And I don't have anything against sexy if that's what you want to go as, but I feel like being forced into that's all you have seems like kind of cheap. Like you should have other options.
Yeah, we don't really have like standard options, I feel like.
Right. We never see like, what if a girl wants to go as Mario? There's never like a female Mario outfit. What's wrong with that?
Unless it's sexy Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or sexy Zelda.
Yeah.
Well, obviously Zelda is sexy, or sexy Link is what I meant to say. You know, like sexy Link. Like, okay.
Yeah. It's a little disappointing, a little frustrating in that whole
That's a whole
department.
conversation for another day.
Yeah. But we're not, as of right now, we're not dressing up for Halloween.
Because Nacy will be working and we don't have any parties or anything that we're going to.
We're going to be in Charleston. I mean, if by some chance I'm not working that night, maybe we'll try and see if we can do something.
So would you ever dress up to go to like a Mickey's Not So Scary or Oogie Boogie Bash?
I think I would. I think since we've been to them before, we kind of know. I wouldn't go with a complicated costume. I would probably.
Oh, I'm totally going as the pizza delivery guy. Let me just tell you. It's basically just a jacket and a hat.
I mean, I think that would be awesome. Be a Pizza Planet guy. Yeah. I think that would be.
And then like
I would just dress up as the Noid.
Hang up like an alien or something out of my back pocket, like sticking. So he's latched onto me, but he's like hanging on there as you're walking. Something simple like that, or even like a Buzz or something, you know.
And I know it's not Disney, but I could just dress up as the Pizza Noid. I mean, come on, that would be hilarious. You got the Pizza Planet guy and Pizza Noid.
So for any youngins that are listening, the Noid was a Domino's advertising campaign in the early to mid 90s.
The Noid. And he was trying to steal your pizza.
And he would annoy you, which is why he was the Noid. So he was just an annoying character. And he was always he wasn't, what was he trying to steal or was he trying to stop? I feel like he was trying to stop them from delivering. I think
he just, well, it wouldn't make sense to stop. Why would he?
Because he's annoying. That's why he does it. He's annoying.
But if he steals I don't know.
I feel like that's too close to the cheeseburglar. Because the cheeseburglar from McDonald's, again, back in the day, used to steal. But I don't think the Noid did. I think he just annoyed them and stopped them. How funny would that be if we dressed up as Grimace and you were the Well, I got Grimace already. Just paint myself purple and walk around.
No, I was thinking I would be Grimace. And then you could dress up as the mayor, the hamburger mayor.
Oh, yeah. He's my favorite. He's my favorite character.
That would be actually pretty funny.
And the reason why he's my favorite is because there used to be a playground outside that one on Del Prado.
Oh, yeah.
And he was always there outside the playground. So I saw him all the time when I worked there. I saw him. So it was I just kind of liked him.
Could you imagine if we got a group together?
And did all of
them? Yeah. That would be amazing. I need friends, guys.
Why is the mayor so much fatter than Grimace? I thought it was supposed to be the other.
Sexy Grimace.
Sexy. You're just gonna go sexy Grimace.
Sexy
I'm gonna go fat mayor.
At that point, you're just KFC.
No, I'll just be the retired burglar. I've got a beer belly because I ate too many cheeseburgers back in the day.
Well, I was gonna say if you're the mayor and you're saying that you're chunky, okay, whatever. I don't think he is, but
go with the air quotes again.
You would just be the KFC guy. I said. Well, Your Honor.
Oh, well, Your Honor. We used to work in a courtroom with a guy who talked like that. That's why she makes that joke.
I said. Which is a guy from the voice I get from the Warner Brothers cartoon. He's the rooster.
Yeah, the rooster.
Yeah, and literally we worked with a guy who talked like that. Yeah. And every time the court hearing would start, he would be like, Your Honor, I say. And I'm just like, shit. Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy, son? I mean, and he was a young guy too. He wasn't even like an old guy. He was a younger guy, like maybe like mid-30s. Yep. And he talked like this with this southern gentleman.
Well, he came from wealth. That's why he talked like that.
He talked like a southern gentleman. And it was just fascinating to listen to. But yeah, you would basically just be like the KFC guy at that point.
I don't think so. I think I'm a retired hamburglar. But no, I like the idea. That's kind of a funny idea if you could get more people to do the whole
Yeah, we need friends, guys. We need friends.
We need friends in person. We have friends, just most of them are spread across
they
the
all
United
live
States.
across, which I will say this to the universe. I am thankful for the friends I do have because I have friends basically almost in every corner of the country.
True.
And that's outside of on a regular basis. That's outside of YouTube space, just people we've met over the years who we've stayed in contact with and we're still really good friends with.
Well, I think one of our biggest problems, and this kind of goes back to like traditions and stuff too, is that we move around so much that we make friends, we make traditions, and then we have to leave them and go somewhere else. I mean, we've lived in New York, in
Georgia,
Nevada, Georgia. I mean, if you think about, we've lived in South Carolina at this point. We officially live there. Same thing with Phoenix. We've been there enough to consider we've lived there. I mean, it's crazy the amount of places that we've lived. Seattle, we lived for like 2 months. Like, it's just crazy.
And
that's why we don't have traditions. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine. And I think us moving back to Florida is actually the first move, truly, that we're making just of our own decision making, not because of school, work, or like obligation. Like we don't have nobody's telling us we have to move back to Orlando, other than the analytics on YouTube.
Yes, that is saying we should move back.
But this is our first move together that we're not having to do out of some type of outside obligation. We're going back, and hopefully we can reconnect with some of the people that we hung out with when we lived in Orlando, and hopefully maybe we can have people come visit us, so that maybe we can start to establish. Also, too, it sucks where we're at because we are so far away from your family. Like, we'll talk about your family, and it's hard it's hard to get everybody together. It's hard to get anybody to come visit us. We always go that way, which we're more than happy to do. It can feel a little isolating sometimes over here on this coast. And we have a few friends here, but we don't have a lot of friends. And it was actually, I think being on the West Coast has actually probably been the hardest place for me to make friends, I think, than anywhere else that I've lived, even New York. And people always talk about how like New Yorkers are like these tough assholes and stuff like that. But yes, they will tell you how they feel. They're not going to sugarcoat it. But I would honestly rather have somebody be honest with me and how they feel about me or what I'm doing than to be like, well, ain't that sweet, y'all. Like, they'll tell you how it is. So as long as you understand who they are, you can get along with New Yorkers.
Yeah.
So, but coming out here, it's definitely been probably the hardest in making friends and making connections. One, we're not here a whole lot, to be completely honest.
For sure now, yeah.
And two, it's a different culture. It's a different personality out here, and nothing against it. I actually kind of like it. I like the culture on the West Coast compared to the East Coast. There's far less religion. Yeah,
there's benefits. Like, there's benefits to all of it.
It's a little bit more liberal.
And maybe we'll talk about that on a different podcast, and that's actually the topic that we're talking about.
But, I like to go off topic. That's just me. But, that's definitely been a hindrance to us making traditions and having something set in stone. And, who knows where the next couple of years go. We hope to settle down somewhere and get a house and, really try to establish ourselves. But, we're in the same boat as, like, I think a lot of millennials. We're just kind of, there's not a whole lot left over to try to establish your life. So we're finally in a place where I think we're going to start that. And so I think going back to Orlando hopefully will open the door for us to do more traditions and hopefully see more people.
So I think that's going to conclude it for Awkward Chats October 2023. I was going to say 2024 for some reason.
And if you guys made it to this far in the podcast, thank you for listening. And if you have anything to say about anything that we talked about, please leave us a comment. Because I would like in the future, if you guys leave a comment, for us to talk about it on the next show.
For sure. And if you want to help the channel, we have an Amazon wish list. We're on Buy Me a Coffee. And we're also got a Patreon. So all of them are under Lost Girl in Tomorrowland. So if you want to look us up and help us out.
And we're getting some sick merch made.
And we do, yeah. We have T-shirts made on TeePublic, too. If you want to look us up there, we're Lost Girl in Tomorrowland, too. And you can see some of my newest designs.
Yeah, we're going to... And...
we're everywhere.
We're everywhere. It's
everywhere, whether you want us to be or not, y'all.
It's a slow start. It's a slow progress, but we're getting there, and we're really excited to take you guys along with us. And we're almost to 1,000 subscribers at this point.
Hopefully, by the time this comes out, we will have 1,000 subscribers.
So we're really excited about that whole avenue and what that's going to open up for us. So honestly, big things are coming, and we're really excited to take you guys along with us. So if you like this podcast, make sure you guys hit that like button on the subscribe, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah.
And because that helps us on all the podcast analytics, and
so we can get our message out to you too, so you can see when we post one. And we do this every month.
Yeah.
Right now, we're looking maybe next year to move it up to twice a month, but we're still sort of working on that. And
want to make sure that we can actually do it before we commit to it.
Yeah, the problem is we travel too much.
So we got some ideas. So we'll see what happens. We might be, there might be a new podcast coming along next year too.
Yep.
So we're excited. There's a lot of things coming, and we're going to keep you guys in the loop, and this is the best place to stay in the loop.
Yeah, and we'll see you next month for Awkward Chats.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.